G'day, Gareth here. I'm out today with Bill from Northside Marine. Finally, after years of hearing about Helm Master, I'm out here for a practical demonstration. So Bill's going to take us through what it can do and just how sophisticated it is. So Bill, tell me a bit about it and where do we start?
Hi Gareth, so today we're on a Genoa Mary Fisher 895.
Yes.
And this one's a twin rig. It's got twin 250 horsepower and it's got the full EX Helm Master, the full kit on there. Now with the Yamaha, it starts with electric steering. You've got to have the electric steering. So it goes from 150 horsepower all the way up to 450 horsepower.
Okay.
So from there, there's a number of stages. So Yamaha have brought in and you can step along each one of those. So we start with the digital electric controls. Now this one's a twin helm, so twin control, but it looks similar just with a single lever on a single engine. And we would do a lot of those single combinations.
And that's effectively a drive-by-wire, it's no cables.
Drive-by-wire, but it has the functionality and features already built in for the full stage of Helm Master.
Okay.
If you don't do the joystick and autopilot, the buttons are there, features are there, but some things are not operated until you step up to those. The next stage then is the electric steering. So
okay.
Same thing, drive-by-wire steering on there. Now it looks like a normal
no hydraulic
helm.
lines either. It's completely
It looks very
system.
similar.
Yep.
You'll see on the front of the engine a built-in cylinder.
Yes.
Already very easy to plug in. So that's basically the stage from there. Then going from there, we would operate up to a little drop-in panel. And so if someone has a customer, they've bought electric steering and the controls on a boat, they can do that first and later they can then come back, then we can plug in, the autopilot can be plugged in.
So there's different levels of adaptability. So you can start with a single engine.
Yes.
From the 150 horsepower upwards and right through to, I'm guessing, 4 engines or...
Yes, across it all. Yes, yeah. That's all there.
Wow.
Then from there, so the main talk, when we're talking to customers, we want to start to explain Helm Master from the point of view so they have the choice of the first engine. So if they go to a hydraulic steering, and all the boats that we would order, most brands will have hydraulic as standard. So we need to have a conversation when they're putting a package together. Would they want to look at autopilot or joystick controls or electric steering? So if they have that idea of that, stage one, we would go to the electric steering. We would want that on the boat. So from the idea that in the future we can start to add those. Most customers, when they start to see the functionality, usually make the decision to
add some more features. Yeah.
They almost put it on from day one.
Yeah, okay.
There. So then we go from the autopilot, that's all switching from there. Then the final stage is then we would call it as a full package, the full manoeuvrability kit. So now we then would plug this in, which is the joystick. So that allows us to operate the boat from a joystick, but it has a number of other features as well, holding the boat in one position. Now remembering with the whole Helm Master, it's all integrated with itself. So if I'm just running with the autopilot, I can actually just, while I'm traveling, instead of touching the steering wheel, I can actually, instead of readjusting it, I can actually just hold that to the left, you'll hear a beep, and then it'll just adjust
the course.
Custom setting by 5 degrees. And what I've found over the last few years of using Helm Master, I would barely touch the steering wheel. Even if I know where I'm going, I'm heading to a direction, and I will just press the course hold. It holds the boat on that course, and as I get a bit closer, I'm starting to notice I'm off course a bit.
Make some adjustments.
I'll just make that adjustment. And a few times when we're out fishing across the bay, we're looking for mackerel, things like that, we'll see some bird schools, and they'll be off to the left or something like that. Instead of grabbing the wheel, I just
make a slight adjustment and away we go.
Beep, so 5 degrees, yep. 10, 15, 20, 25, 30.
So it's a very intuitive system as well. Like from a fishing point of view, I mean, a lot of people with boats are out there fishing. So we've got features like a FishPoint.
Yes. Yep.
And from there we can make adjustments with the joystick.
So once we go to there, we would turn joystick. So we've just activated the joystick, will operate from there. So then we have some points from there, so what we could call FishPoint. Okay. So FishPoint is active on all the engines. Then we've got stay point and drift point. Now stay point will actually hold the boat in a position. Now FishPoint will hold the motors in a position and the boat will drift or move around according to the wind or the current.
Okay.
Now that is then only with a single engine, right? So once we go up to the twin engine, which this boat is, then we have the functionality of stay point. Now at the moment we're actually sideways to the wind, and if I was to hit stay point, instead of the boat drifting around sideways, we can actually turn it. So usually the idea on a boat with a walk around like this, for fishing out the side, we can go to an offshore reef, I can turn the boat
to leeward side,
sideways there, and I can just hold stay weight, so we can actually be drifting sideways and all fishing off the side of the boat.
Okay, so that is a quite sophisticated feature, especially if you've got chop or surface or wind like we have today. You can put everyone in a more comfortable position. And from what I can see, the mechanical side of things is with the electric steering, both engines are working independently of each other, steering and thrust.
And thrust. In and out, it's quite a, you've got to get used to it. It's quite an unusual thing.
I'm seeing two engines going different directions.
Left and right and in and out of gear. And it'll do whatever it's got to do. And Yamaha, we have an aerial on the roof to a satellite, and it'll just hold that position. There's a little bit of movement subject to the wind and the current.
Roughly how close can that hold the position?
Within a few metres.
Which is quite impressive.
It'll hold the spot, but then it'll just motor back to that depending on the things. Just for example, the first time I ever used it, we had it on a boat and we went out fishing the beacons in Moreton Bay and just dropping lures there. And we did it at the top of the tide. There was barely any wind and no current. So when we went there and we pulled it, the engine barely moved because the boat barely moved. It would just tap into gear, would turn off.
Just make an adjustment and back again.
And then as we went through the day, the tide was starting to roar out. And within a few hours, we were at the top end of Moreton Bay on one of the beacons. It was 3 to 4 knots of current. Then all of a sudden...
Which is considerable out in the bay, which we see a lot. Yeah.
And then it was holding on the beacon, but then all of a sudden it was working a lot to hold it on that position. And over the years, I actually became quite skilled at fishing on the beacon, reversing up to the beacon and fishing and steering
driving
at the same
and
time.
fishing, it's quite a skill, yeah.
To do that, and now it's wonderful. I can pull up on one of those beacons and I'll just hit FishPoint, reverse up to a position the boat on there, hit the FishPoint, and I can go out either fish with a lure or even just bait jigging, and it's amazing. I can do it by myself. I can be in the boat jigging for bait, and it just holds it on that position. And then I'm always watching the sounder. If the bait drifts off a little bit, same thing, iteration. I can just
make an adjustment.
I can just push the joystick, it'll beep and it'll move the boat in a direction by 3 meters. So if I just see the boat on the bait on the sounder moving away,
you want to follow that school, or
just push that, maybe the joystick, 1, 2, 3, which will be 9 meters. It'll move the bait 9 meters, and then it'll hold on that position. And sure enough, as I'm jigging and I'm watching the bait, there it is. So I have that freedom to move back and forwards and just on that. So that's made something that usually was a 2-person job, or you had to be very skilled to operate the boat. That's taken that away.
It's taken all that complication out. And I guess also when you start getting up to vessels with 2 engines, they're generally getting to be a bigger boat in size, and your traditional electric motor just wouldn't cut it on a boat of this size. So there's no way it would hold it in position.
Well, particularly this boat of this size, and now there's a bit of breeze, the electric motor's going to do it, and it would start to pull off. And we've seen that. We would advise customers, but that Helm Master will just hold it. And there again, there's an artificial reef or a wreck off Moreton Island. It's about 40-45 meters, St Paul's Wreck. It's a wonderful spot if I'm ever going past, just to drop some lures.
Where the current rips through there on the run in and run out.
Horrendously, and most times over all the years, I would try and get up from it, see it on the centre. As we drive past, we drop and we do it.
And driving.
Now, wonderfully, I can pop up on it. I can see it on the sounder. You'll see amberjacks, kingies hanging off the top. I hit FishPoint and it just stays on that spot. And we just walk out the back.
You're free to drop your jigs over the side and go fishing.
And it sits there incredibly, and we're not drifting off. We don't have to come back around again, fight the fish. So that's something I've never been able to experience, and it makes it so easy. And even for the owner of this boat, we showed him all that and he just agreed, Bill, this is fabulous. I'm not the best boat driver, it was hard to position it. Now with electronics, he does that and they just put you right on the spot. And same thing, if you want a bit of movement, you can just, instead of turning it off, just make adjustments. 3 meters this way, 10 meters, 12 meters, back and forth, and just start dropping the lure. And it will increase catching fish.
All right, so now we've got a bit of an understanding of how that works. I also see that this is integrated with the sounder as well.
So wonderfully, Garmin and Yamaha partnered very early. Garmin were very keen to work with Yamaha, working with the data and all the rest of it. We saw it from day one. So the integration with that, 2 separate companies, but wonderful. So we just hook an NMEA cable between the Yamaha gauge, there's a backbone, and to the Garmin. So now Garmin, for example, has waypoint, it has auto guidance, so we can put a point, we can navigate. So normally you would just drive by the screen to watch what it is.
Of course, yes.
So now we've got that. Now that we've integrated the 2, hit track point. Now the Garmin, the Yamaha Autopilot now would just navigate that course directly to that point. Now the steering wheel, like everything with Yamaha, with the cruise control, the Autopilot, we have override, it will drive there. The steering just stiffens a little bit, but knowing that if there was something in the way or another boat at a different point, I can just turn it, go off.
So this has got its own feedback as well in the drive-by-wire system. So can you change the rates of how firm the steering is, how soft it is?
Yes.
Oh wow, okay, so there's added features that come along with the drive-by-wire system as well, and Helm Master. Okay, so this system is obviously far more sophisticated than just holding your boat in position.
Yes.
So we're out on the Moreton Bay here now. We've got a wind coming in, well, 15 knots, I'd say almost.
Yep.
And if we want to hold in position here, how would we do that? What's the process of, we've just found something on the sounder, what do we do?
So we've got that there. So I've already turned joystick on, so we need to be in neutral. The engines are going to be running, got to be in neutral. If I am in gear or whatever, it won't activate. So it'll be into neutral. It will come up on the screen to tell me. I've hit joystick, say that joystick is activated. And then from there, basically there, we just go to FishPoint.
Here the engine engage.
And then it comes up, FishPoint is activated, propeller is engaged from there. And there again, because we've integrated the Garmin with the Yamaha, it also comes up on here and it's telling me what is happening. I go, okay. And now we see the boat actually just twisting.
Okay,
around.
and that's seeing in the direction that we've basically said, this is what we want to hold at. And if we wanted to adjust that so we want to fish with the wind and turn us around, what would you do there?
So basically we would just go into a mode button up here.
Yep.
So at the moment we've got stern into the wind. I go to mode button and change bow into the wind. And then it'll spin the bow
into the wind. It's as simple as that.
Straight into there. We have a neutral hold, so I can press the neutral hold. So then I can put the throttles forward, I can rev the engines, but not in gear. So if I was just to leave it, but I wanted the engine running, there were kids on the boat or something like that, I could just put it in neutral, having not the fear that it's about to go into gear at all.
Wow.
We have another button called Trim Assist.
Okay.
So what we can do is in the settings of the Yamaha, I can adjust how this boat, as I get up onto the plane, as we like to lift the motor up or having it ride in, we can preset that into the engine, or even when we're water, we can actually set that up. And then we have a button in here within the Yamaha gauge, I can turn it on and off, or on here I can just turn it on now or turn it off. So then if I turn it on, I'm in the bay, and as we start to accelerate and I get up to speed, the engine has,
adjusting.
It will actually come out. As I de-accelerate, will come down. And the off button as well is good. Sometimes we're finding, I'm coming on to, if I was going to drive a boat onto the trailer, I'm always trimming the motor out. I don't want the motor trimming in, so I can deactivate it.
Okay.
But also at any time, if it is trimming in or out, as soon as I actually do it manually, it overrides the automatic. So Yamaha have been very good to think through these steps.
This is a very sophisticated system with a lot of steps, but I can't believe how easy it is to operate. Although it's a particularly sophisticated system, it is also very user-friendly and simple.
From there, just a couple of other things, Gareth, on there. Single lever as well. So that's probably one of the features. If it was a single lever, it would be on there, but I can just turn that. Instead of using the twin levers, I can just use one on the twin engine, but it'll operate both motors. So I find most of that, I do like the twin controls myself, but a lot of customers will do that and just operate the one from there. And just one other feature, we've obviously got trim and tilt, which...
I was going to ask you about this. We've got an up and down speed button here as well.
So we can just click that, we can just click that on, a blue light will come on, and that's a cruise control.
Okay.
Right? So basically once that is, we can set that within the Yamaha gauges to either be operated at speed, or it can operate at an engine RPM. So all of a sudden now I can just start to click that. I'm doing 35 RPM. I don't want to pull it back, but just a couple of hundred RPM.
Just a couple of hundred RPM.
So 50, 100, 150, 200. It just takes the edge off. And particularly if you're on autopilot, all of a sudden I'm sitting here, I just dropped it back, takes the edge off, I go through there, it's smooth, I get the other side again, hey, it's calm, I can just start to tap it up, and even a bit more, and it just goes up. And I've actually found driving with the autopilot, the joystick adjustment just to fine tune it, the cruise control, weirdly enough, I barely touch the steering wheel anymore, and I actually love operating all those things from there.
All from the joystick. I guess it's fine control as well, and you've got more time to spend looking at where you're going and other things on the boat. You've got other people on the boat, especially with a boat of this size. You might have 5 or 6 other people preparing for fishing and rigging up, so you want at least the amount of work to do at the helm.
And inside there's also a lot of other functionality for setting up. And it's just something we talked about, just part of the autopilot integrated with the Garmin. We're driving to a waypoint, so I can just accelerate, it'll drive there. and then there are settings within there. So in most traditional autopilots, it would say the boat's arrived, we're on the spot, right? And then we would just decelerate ourselves. Now with the Yamaha Helm Master, they've built in a couple of other features that it will automatically decelerate. And there's a couple of settings. I think it's about 50 meters setting, 100 meters or 200 meters setting. So I can then set it to that point, and if I set it 100 meters, when it gets on 100, it just starts to warn us.
Starts throttling back.
And the controls will stay in that position, but the RPM will just pull off a semi-plane, pulls it off the plane, and then as you just idle it go, drops it back, and you just see the RPM, a couple of hundred RPM, and it gets right onto that spot. And then on that spot, and same thing, if we've actually set it up, the engines will go into neutral. So same thing, the throttles are forward, it'll go into neutral, it'll tell us on the screen, gone into neutral, and then it will say, if you want FishPoint, pull the control levers back to neutral, and it automatically goes onto that spot.
I know I'm guilty of it myself. You've been targeting a spot out in the middle of the ocean with no reference to anything, and you've overshot your target by 500 meters without noticing. So this takes a lot of those problems out.
Also part of the autopilot as well, it's got some set paths that it can do. We can actually set the autopilot to do a zigzag. You know, we can do circle setups. If I was on a reef or a search pattern, I'm looking for structure, I can actually be on a point, and even within there I can set how big the circle's, how wide it goes.
So even with the circle, not just straight lines, and so you can actually steer the vessel into a search pattern effectively, so you can watch the sounder without having to make sure you're operating that circle.
And it goes out there. And I thought that was a great feature, and a number of years ago we'd sold one and a customer took it out there, and he sent me a photo of the Garmin screen, and he did this swirl. Yes. It was out of Manoeuvrability, and it was the perfect swirl, and he said, Bill, there's about 3 to 4 knots, 15 knots of wind. It's not possible to do that unless it's you can't drive that. You'll think you're doing circles and you're getting out, but the current's actually taking you away. Yeah. And it was on there, and I was amazed. That's not possible. The technology, because it was compensating to stay on that line with the wind and the current, because you've got no markers to do that perfectly. You've
got no reference to anything.
So that to me was amazing. And same thing, the zigzag a reef. You think you're actually heading up, and offshore that current's actually pulling you backwards, and
you've missed it by a mile. Yeah.
So this thing was amazing. It was compensate that, and would just continue doing that through. So the features in there's a lot of settings, everything. It's got adjustments, and Yamaha have been wonderful that over the years that more information as the world's been using has been greater feedback. And so as a Yamaha dealer, when we would service an engine, we would plug the laptop up to it to get the diagnosis, but at the same time we would do a data update on all the electronics, which is something that we understand with phones and computers. We do that now, and then Yamaha have done a lot more updates, and all the new thinking, the understanding actually gets uploaded to the newer features.
Let's say that I've got a vessel like this, or a vessel with 2 engines or 1 engine, just depending, and I want to adjust and put an autopilot system or the Helm Master system on. How difficult is that to achieve? Do I need anything else on the boat? Is there any special additional hardware that we need, or does the system basically provide everything you need to have it up and running?
The system provides everything. So we have done, now obviously we do it on new boat sales, and we would talk to people through it, and they would go up to that. But we've seen a lot of number of sales that people have heard about it, see the functionality of that. So they would bring in their older boat, and we would remove, they would sell that, take the old engine off, the control boxes, gauges, the steering system would now be removed.
And retrofitting is quite simple then.
But we can always make it happen. So that can always be there. Sometimes they might have a whole lot of 6 or 7 gauges, one of the old 2-strokes. So we would usually get a panel to cover that, put the nice CL5 gauge on there. Yamaha gives us more room. The autopilot can then go alongside it, and all that features from there. So basically then you've got that whole integration from there. And like always, there's a lot of talk that Yamaha are bringing out greater features. Like on the autopilot, there are some extra buttons on there that we know there's future stuff that's coming. And the idea of that, when that comes available, my understanding is we can add that to the boat, plug it all in. And so we know Helm Master is the future with Yamaha and boating, and it's going to have more and more stages that will still connect to what we have currently.
Well, I tell you, I'm pretty sold on this. I've been waiting to see this for a long time now, and I'm quite sure that I'm going to need this on my boat. Mate, so you've given me the complete rundown today, and I'm going to have to stop you there because my brain's full of information, and the Helm Master obviously has everything in control. So I'm going to enjoy the rest of the demo out here today, and mate, I really appreciate your time, and I encourage everyone to have a chat with you about moving forward with Helm Master on their boat. So thanks again.
Very good. Thanks, Gareth.